Well, it's all over. The 2023-24 season for the Clippers comes to an end. A season that once had championship aspirations comes crashing down in round one. And for the fourth straight year, it is because Kawhi Leonard wasn't able to be healthy when we needed him most. Going to be talking about the season, the game, and how I'm feeling on today's Locked On Cancun Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and just finished my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where a video of me just losing my mind on what's been a failed year for this organization will be out. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know where you think the Clippers should go from here, because this has been a rough ending, to say the least. Clippers bowing out in round one, 4-2 to the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks, in which we have beaten 2 times in the last 5 years in this 2-1-3 era, but the third time would be the charm for them, as of course it would also be the first time that they got a taste of what everybody else has experienced playing us in the playoffs, which is playing us without Kawhi. So I don't really know what to say. It's over, guys. I said we couldn't win this series without Kawhi without Kawhi. I said it, and people were still saying we could and this and that. I think every single Clipper fan that comments on this channel and all that, you guys severely underestimated Dallas. You severely underestimated their defense. You underestimated PJ Washington's improvement as a defensive player. You underestimated what Lively and Gafford would bring to the table. You underestimated Derrick Jones Jr. on defense. You underestimated that Kyrie Irving's in a great situation. The only player that we didn't underestimate was Luka as a fan base, and he's the one that played the least good in terms of their standards, probably. I mean, obviously he turned up a little bit in the last 2 games, but I think we saw that we needed Kawhi to win this series against this caliber of opposition. You look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they got knocked out with Giannis. You look at the Pelicans, they got swept without Zion. You're asking so much of James Harden and Paul George, and I'm going to be talking about Paul George and James Harden as the episode continues, but I mean, let's just talk about the game, I guess. First off, I guess I want to give a congratulations to the Mavs fans, but not really. Like, you guys played us without Kawhi, so I'm not impressed in any way. I will say this, my belief about Dallas's defense being improved was confirmed, but when you beat a team without Kawhi, I'm sorry, that doesn't move me. This series against OKC will be exciting. I'm very looking forward to watching it and seeing how it goes, and that'll be an even bigger test. But like, if you had asked Mavs fans, Clippers without Kawhi, considering what Kawhi has done to the Mavs in the past, you would take that all day long. So, yeah, we lost to Dallas, 4-2. In terms of the matchups, Kyrie Irving was still on James Harden. Derrick Jones Jr. was still on Paul George. Luka was on PJ Tucker, who started in place of Amir Coffey. PJ Tucker. That was our go-to with everything on the line. Gafford on Zoo. Mavs were switching 1 through 4, and it was crazy because, like, in the beginning of the game, you saw both teams going to what they believed was, like, their most effective action. We kept going at Luka in the pick and roll, and they kept going at Harden in the pick and roll. And both sides were creating pretty good shots. I think Paul George and James Harden, in the first half, every time they saw Luka, they actually looked to go to the basket. And I loved it. I really did. The thing is, when PJ Tucker was out there and at times they try to go to the basket, they'd go to the paint and they're like, oh my God, nobody's open because PJ and Zoo are standing right next to each other. I mean, just negative spacing for what wasn't that amazing of defense from PJ Tucker. And you didn't really start to see the negative effects of it till the third quarter where, he's getting offensive fouls. He's just taking up space. He's just taking up space. And the Mavs, one thing they tried to do was get Gafford going early. He was really active on the glass, and in my opinion, had probably his best game of the series, or so it felt like his best game of the series. And then PJ Washington maybe as well. PJ Washington went 4 for 8 from 3, and that was a third of their threes. And then Gafford, 13.6 boards. He was really effective in this game. And then Lively almost had a double-double, 10 and 9. So one thing that was exposed in this series is that the Mavericks' center rotation was better than ours. Not because of Zoo. I think Zoo was arguably the best player for the Clippers in the series, even though he really ran out of gas in the second half on Friday. I mean, after that dunk that Gafford had on him, which, by the way, I think should have been an offensive foul. He's just stiff-armed like crazy. But it's like you see Giannis and certain players get away with that all the time. Paul George and James Harden push off plenty. But it really took the wind out of our sails. Mason Plumlee was playing so badly in the first half that Ty was like not messing around and put Zoo right back in. And he looked gassed after that dunk. He was fumbling the ball. He wasn't reacting quickly to rebounds and stuff like that. It looked like he had just had the wind knocked out of his sails. And then, talking about Plumlee and Russ, Russ looked like he had lost all his confidence in this series. Coming in, shooting reckless shots. He had a nice assist early on in the game, but even when Harden came out of the game and Russ is going downhill, every single one of those missed layups, and it's been like this all season, but every single one of those missed layups feels like a live ball turnover. For whatever reason, every time Russ misses a layup, the other team will go up the other way and score. Every time. And it's very detrimental. I gave Russ a pass. Not a pass, but I said, give him some leeway, saying we need him to bring the ball up. And he got a chance to do that for a sec. He missed a point-blank layup last night under the basket where he just completely rushed it. And defensively, he wasn't that good. He wasn't boxing out. And that was a thing for the entire team. We were not boxing out. Rebounding was not there. We got out-rebounded. Actually, no, it was a tie in the rebounding department, but they got 2 more offensive rebounds than us. It felt like so much more. I mean, anytime a team gets 18 offensive rebounds on you, that's just a sign that the guys are not working hard enough. They're not boxing out, and you can blame just about everyone. Zubats, Terrence Mann, Russ, Harden, Paul. I saw every single one of them not fight hard enough for a rebound at times, just standing there ball watching and hoping the ball would arrive to them. I mean, that's not a do or die attitude in any way, shape, or form. I think that the effort level was about 80% for what needs to be 110 in a game like this. And I think the Clippers should only be mad at themselves for Game 5 because if you want to talk about losing this series, if you want to hold everybody accountable besides the fact that Kawhi didn't play, you had a Game 5 at home. Anytime you lose a Game 5 at home and you're going to the other team's house to try to bring it back to Game 7, you are putting yourself in an extremely unfavorable situation where you shouldn't even be mad at yourself if you lose, because it's going to take everything for you to win and for them to choke a bit. And in the first half, Dallas really kept us in the game. Like at halftime, it was 52-52. I mean, this was deadlocked, and I think we did a very good job of ending quarters. James Harden had 2 big steals at the end of the second quarter. And I thought James was being very aggressive. He wasn't shooting well, but I'll take that first half he had in Game 6 over the first half he had in Game 3 every day of the week. And the stat guys won't like it, but I'm watching the game, and I was very happy with James outside of the fact that defensively, whenever we put James Harden on Luka or Kyrie, it's the natural instinct of our team to start doubling and start showing help. And at times that was allowing him to get open shots. So it's just like with James Harden, you got to overcompensate for him on defense a lot. But I don't think he was necessarily playing bad defense. And he was getting to the basket way more and not settling, which I really enjoyed. So in the first half, I thought James Harden actually played a much better half than Game 2 or 3. But it would be to no avail because in the second half, we just didn't really get much going. The Mavericks were pushing the pace off of misses. That was their main goal, and it worked. Kyrie Irving woke up and went crazy and just showed everybody that's been talking about what have you done since LeBron. He said, I'm back in the playoffs, baby, and he just went absolutely nuts. As I said, I think the game really turned on Zubats getting dunked on. Because after that, they just kept trying to attack Harden. They got some really good shots. And after that, it didn't matter who Kyrie Irving attacked. He was getting buckets on everyone. I mean, followaways in the corner. That 3 he made where he wasn't even looking at the basket when the shot went in and one was just outrageous. At that point, I was just appreciating the greatness because we were already losing by 20 and I knew it was done. But it's over, man. Paul George wasn't there when we needed him most. You look at the field goal percentage for the Clippers' two best players, a combined 11 for 34. Paul George had 18 points in the do-or-die game. He did have 11 rebounds and 5 assists, but 6 for 18 from the field and 2 for 10 from 3. 10 of your 18 shots were threes and you're not hitting. And then James Harden, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 13 assists. Guy threw some amazing passes on 5 for 16 shooting, 0 for 6 from 3, 6 for 7 from the line. I actually don't think James was that bad. Believe it or not, yes, we needed him to shoot better, but I'm actually going to go easy on him. I don't think he was that bad. I think he actually created things for us, and he played much better in this game than games 2 and 3. I think games 2 and 3, the stats completely lied. I think this game, the field goal percentage makes it look like he played worse than he actually did. I actually think he wasn't bad. But yes, defensively and rebounding wise, he wasn't good enough. But it's like, we know who James Harden is. So like, the problem, if you want to talk about Harden, is who he is as a player, not really the way he performed. I think he performed just like you would expect him to, if not maybe a little bit better in this series, just given that, you didn't have Kawhi and he got 2 games. But his stats for this series ended up being 21 points, 4.5 rebounds, 8 assists on 45% shooting and 38 from 3. So pretty solid shooting splits. If you look at the splits, he didn't have that bad of a series. But coming up, he had a pretty good series, in fact. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about Paul George, who I think deserves most of the blame. All right, Clippers season ends 4-2 to Dallas in the first round. We lose Game 6 by a final score of 114 to 101. But trust me, this game was basically over by the end of the third quarter. Paul George was so bad that the guy was sitting down the last 5 minutes of the game. Paul George, I'm going to make it very blunt. I hope that was the last game that he plays for this team. I love him to death. I've defended him all year, but enough's enough. When push came to shove, you did not show up. You didn't even look like you cared much. There was one moment in the third quarter where I think it was P.J. Washington missed a shot from the corner, and Paul just turned around, didn't even box out, just watched. And it's just, I'm tired of that lackadaisical approach. I'm tired of that. It's not even a big deal if we lose. We'll be back next year. It's just because Kawhi wasn't there. He has no sense of urgency. I'm tired of hearing him make excuses. I'm done. There's nothing more to say. I appreciate him for everything he's done. He might be one of the top 5 Clippers of all time. He's surely in the top 10, but I will like to see him go somewhere else unless we can get a better second option, because he is just done. I'm done with it. 6 for 18, bro. I mean, Paul George shot 41% in the series. He literally averaged like 20 points in the series. Actually, no, 19 and a half. I mean, without Kawhi Leonard to average 19 and a half points, you shouldn't have anything anymore. We want to talk about the contract he wants to get. He shouldn't be getting anywhere close to Kawhi. I mean, there's nothing to say about him. He had Kyrie Irving switched on to him several times, and all he did was shoot contested jumpers. All he did. When push came to shove, he did absolutely nothing. So I have really nothing to say about Paul George. As far as Ivica Zubac, he was one of our bright spots in this series. I hope that he stays around for a while. I know people are going to dislike what I'm saying. There's a lot of Zoo haters out there that just don't like that he can't switch onto the perimeter, which literally only a couple bigs in the league can do well. He had a great series, and I think he was just criminally underutilized by Ty Lue as a Clipper in his 4 years as coach of the Clippers. Ty Lue, he hasn't really used Zoo enough in that role. He averaged 16 and 9 in the series on 60% shooting. He had 17 and 11 in this game. As I said, I think it was kind of a tale of two halves. I think he was spectacular in the first half, but in the second half, not so much. He almost had a double-double at halftime. And one thing that was so impressive to me was, one, I like that we were getting him post touches early, but two, he was switching on to Luka and was doing an amazing job. Got like 3 stops on him. So really impressive from Zoo. But eventually, Luka started getting going. And as I said, Kyrie Irving started getting hot. One thing I also noticed about Paul George is he was so hesitant to pass to Terrence Mann. That was really frustrating considering that Terrence had 14 points on 5 for 9 shooting and 2 for 4 from 3, had 6 rebounds and 3 assists to go along with his 14 points. Why are you not passing to the guy when he actually is shooting well? Like that's the selfishness for you to just dribble around. And Derrick Jones Jr. completely locked up Paul George in this series for the most part. He really did a good job of him. His length and size was too much. And Paul, he doesn't like engaging in combat anymore physically. After the injuries, he has really, been more hesitant in that department, and it massively has hurt us. Massively. So a lot of over dribbling from Paul. Again, I didn't have too many complaints about Harden over dribbling in this game. I actually thought he was getting downhill and doing a decent job. He just missed shots that he should have made. Of course, I did have a problem with some of the shots that he took, mainly the threes, and then the defense is a little lazy. I mean, in transition, Harden puts no effort in on defense. He never makes a play on the ball. He never tries to stop the ball. He doesn't take a hard foul or anything like that. He'll just swipe down. That's about it. But it was the least of our issues, in my opinion, in this game. I just think we're a little too slow and old. And, Kawhi Leonard, there's nothing more to say about him. He's not going to get off easy for me. It's not his fault that he got hurt. But, you think this is okay? You think this is solid for us to end another season like this without Kawhi playing? We're wasting $50 million per year and investing all our time and interest in this. It's completely unfair to the fans. I do not want to do another year of just if Kawhi is going to be healthy type of games. I really don't. But the problem is because he was so demanding when he came and wanted a second star and we traded everything for Paul George, and now Kawhi hasn't held up his end of the bargain from a health perspective. Now we're looking at, we want to move on from these guys, but we can't because we can't necessarily tank. And who wants these damaged goods? And then Paul George could easily opt out of his player option this upcoming summer and then explore the market. And then James Harden's a free agent, unrestricted as well. So we are in one of the worst positions in the league. And it's because Kawhi Leonard wanted to demand so much for Paul George. And again, I know the excuse-making losers in the comment section are going to say, Paul George was his third choice. Why don't you just come to the organization that you want to go to and let the front office figure it out and have discussions with you after you suit up? Not come in with these demands like you're freaking Michael Jordan. And now, he hasn't been healthy, and every single season ends in disappointment like this. It's completely unfair to the fans. All you guys talking about we were going to win the championship. I never really was sold on Kawhi's health. I kept knocking on the wood for a reason, and it still didn't pay off. After 68 games. Is there anything more Clipper than Kawhi Leonard being healthy for 68 games and then still not being healthy for the playoffs? I don't think so. Clipper season falls short yet again with Kawhi in street clothes. Going to be talking about how much of a failure it truly was and what needs to be addressed coming up. All right, guys, as far as the game, is there anything else I'm forgetting? I mean, I'm just going to read off my notes. Lively was hedging and recovering in the first quarter at times, especially against Paul George. The rebounds were absolutely crushing us. As I said, Russell Westbrook was just horrible. He had a decent stretch in the second half for a sec, but the lack of spacing, the erratic shots, he just had no confidence, and it just shows that this role was not for him. He can't be a backup anymore. He either needs to go start somewhere on a bad team where he gets the leash to do whatever, or he needs to be the starting point guard around star players that can make up for his lack of gravity off the ball. Other than that, he was just a disaster in this series. Quite frankly, our worst performer, in my opinion, had almost no good game after game one. He shot absolutely horrifically, and he got into it with fans and let them get into his head. But again, I don't think it's an ideal situation when he's playing with Harden so much and it's all off ball. It's just not it for him. Without him pushing the pace, without him being on ball. I think there's obviously stuff that's going to happen negatively when he's doing that as well. But I just feel as though you don't get any of the positives without giving him a little bit of an extended run to make up for those mistakes. Now, some people might say you don't have room for those mistakes in the playoffs. And that's a valid point as well. But we did see him play at a very high level last year. And I know it was a different situation without the stars. But you don't just go from that to sucking at basketball. You don't just go from that performance against Phoenix a couple weeks ago to sucking at basketball. It's a mental game. Russ is a very emotional player. And I just think that we didn't do anything to optimize him. And that falls on Ty Lue to a large degree. 6 points for Russ on 2 for 7 shooting in 9 minutes. 0 for 1 from 3, 2 for 3 from the foul line. He was a -8 in his 9 minutes, but it's funny. He was a -8 in his 9 minutes, and everybody was acting like he completely lost us the game. I think he had a very bad stretch in the first quarter, but I don't think that Russell Westbrook single-handedly lost us the game. Anyway, by the way, in the third quarter, when Harden came out, we were down by 9. And then when he came out, we were down 16. So, like, that lineup without him, it didn't really do many favors for anybody. As far as, let's see, what else do I have here? Harden, as I said, when he was guarding on the ball, we were doubling, and it was getting PJ Washington open shots. And then there were, at times, Paul George and Harden got to the paint and didn't take floaters. I mean, that was what was so frustrating, is they both passed up floaters all game. Does Paul George even have a floater? Like, these guys are so analytically programmed, they don't want to take the open threes. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Attacking Luka was working. We got him with 2 fouls, and we still, I don't think, went at him enough. But, you know, when we went at Kyrie, and I've been asking for PG to go at Kyrie, all he did was settle for long jumpers. Like, that's all he did. I mean, it was just a joke. Just a joke. Norman Powell actually had one of his better games of the series, but I think he had a very underwhelming series. But again, I think it's partially because he's not great at defense, and we didn't have Kawhi Leonard to create him more shots. 20 points for Norm. He was our leading scorer, 4 rebounds on 6 for 14 shooting, and 2 for 6 from 3. Amir Coffey, I don't think he was quite ready to have this big of a role in a playoff series, starting in games and stuff. He was phenomenal in game 1, but after that, he didn't really offer anything. 2 points on 1 for 1 shooting in 8 minutes. And then Mason Plumlee played 2 minutes, and it was such a hard 2 minutes to watch. -7. Ty Lue definitely deserves some blame for not playing Tice at all. Is it a needle mover? No, we're not going to beat Dallas just because of Tice, but I think it could have helped. And all season long, he was the one that we were playing our best basketball, was getting burned, and he didn't get any burn. Just insane. Just insane. But, you know, funny enough, on the passing floaters conversation, Luka and Kyrie to begin the third quarter, they ran right by James Harden twice, and each of them passed up the floater. It was just so funny. I think players need to, like, just stop being so analytically programmed and fiending for threes. But yeah, PJ Tucker had a really rough stretch in that third quarter, clogging everything up. And then, as I said, Harden had some decent moments. He had 4 straight points. He had some really nice passes. Russ had that 5 straight points at the end of the quarter. But then there was a really rough stretch where Russ missed a layup, and that led to a bucket. And then Russ had a quick layup miss. PG didn't get the rebound on that PJ Washington shot, and Kyrie Irving made an open 3. He had 12 points in the third quarter, and that was it. We were basically cooked. I just thought Paul George had no fight. Do or die. The fact that he only gets up 18 shots, I said you got to put up a minimum of 20. Just disgraceful in every single way, shape, or form, and they get absolutely no excuse. You know, it's just a really lame way to end the season. Really lame way to end the season. I don't really have much good to say about any of them outside of Zubats and Terrence Mann. I think Harden played okay, but ultimately we needed more from our 2 best players to win this game. But I don't think it's I do blame them, Harden and Paul, mainly Paul over Harden. I think Harden was fine. I just don't think he's going to win a championship. I said that before, and I'll say it again. I don't care what any of you fanboys in the comments say. I think that giving the ball to him so much is ultimately hurts a lot of the players on a team. It makes them all just kind of have to feed off his plate, and he doesn't play off ball because he's a hesitant catch-and-shoot guy who has to take a rhythm dribble when he gets the catch-and-shoot opportunity, and then defensively he really offers nothing. We all subconsciously lower our defensive standards for him because of his reputation, and we see him get a strip or anything, we go crazy about it because he's like, oh, they say Harden don't play D. It's like, dude, you can see them attacking him over and over, and the less guys that we can have attacked, the better. Paul George is the biggest problem with this series in terms of for us. Outside of the Kawhi thing, I mean, the guy just ducks responsibility. In 2021, he wanted more ball handling responsibility. 2 years later, he wanted less. He wanted his point guard. We tried John Wall. We tried Reggie Jackson. We tried Russell Westbrook. And now James Harden. And ultimately, it's left us with the same result of losing in the second or first round because Kawhi is not healthy. And as far as Kawhi, I got nothing to say. I'm over having him on my team. He's an amazing player to watch, but like, how much more time am I going to give you? Like, I'm out here paying for season tickets, you know, at every single game, and for us to end every season like this. And, you know, Ty Lue, I mean, I think he holds some blame. He didn't use Russ correctly, just too much off ball. He didn't play Tice enough. For him to play PJ Tucker, and that was like his go-to move when we were, you know, back against the wall, was just like reeked of desperation. He had some bad moments in this series. But here's the funniest part. Everyone thinks Ty Lue's a trash coach. I don't. What other coach has had to deal with this, where his best player has been absent in 4 consecutive postseasons to end it? I mean, it's just not fair to him. It's not fair. And you guys really want him to go to the Lakers? Be my guest. I don't. I think Ty's still one of the best coaches in basketball. I think Jason Kidd is not a better coach than Ty Lue. I love Jason Kidd, the basketball player. He was actually one of my idols as a kid. I loved him. But he didn't out-coach Ty. He did a decent job with things. He played lively more in the last 2 games. He didn't out-coach Ty. He had a better team than Ty. The Mavericks without Kawhi Leonard are just a better team. And I still stand by had we had Kawhi, it would have been a 7-game series, maybe even 6. Because if Luka had that slump and then the role players kept shooting like that, a healthy Kawhi, we would have beaten him in 6 or 7. I mean, Dallas fans, I know we played you before the moves, but remember what Kawhi was looking like when we beat you in Dallas earlier this season? I mean, it was night and day. It was night and day. But I understand. Dallas fans, you should probably still say, I think we still would have won without Kawhi, have that confidence, or with Kawhi, still have that confidence in your team and whatnot. But, I think we would have, but it's like woulda, coulda, shoulda. Every year it's the same conversation. So I'm exhausted. I'm drained. I just want to say to all the fans, this was my biggest year yet of content on both this channel and Dime Dropper channel. And I couldn't be more thankful to all of you who listen every day, the people that comment every day, even the haters that annoy the hell out of me, and all the fans that came up to me at the game. I'm really appreciative of the Locked On Network, of my bosses, David Locke and Nick Engstedt, who obviously Locked On Mavs. Congratulations to them, letting it ride into the sunset. Hopefully, I don't even know who I want to win next series. I just want to watch it as a basketball fan. But those guys have done a lot for me. They've given me this opportunity to speak about my team and as a passionate fan. And I couldn't have thanked them enough for it. It's built my name more. I've gotten so many people to come up to me at the games this year and say they love my work, and that's the greatest feeling in the world. And when these guys disappoint over and over, and I don't like the direction in which we're going, we'll have all offseason to talk about what that is. It's from the bottom of my heart, I truly appreciate it. I sacrifice so much for this team. I stay up till 3 a.m. in the morning every single night, editing these videos and watching basketball, and I sacrifice sleep. I sacrifice time with my friends. All this stuff. I make so many sacrifices for this team. And for it to end like this after 19 years of fandom, I mean, I miss Lob City. I miss Blake Griffin. I don't like this era, and I want it to be over. I really want it to be over. And I know I'm not the only fan that feels that way. But, what's going to happen? We'll have all summer to talk about it. Congrats, Dallas. You finally got us. But again, if you want to brag about beating us without Kawhi, that's fine. I know my comments are going to be filled with Cancun because Nick is going to say something about saying Cancun or say bye or we got you this time. Whatever he says, it'll just help the algorithms. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to my own channel where I absolutely obliterated this organization. That's not safe for work at all. Go to watch it. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Let's get Locked On Clippers to 6,000 subs. I love you all. Have a great summer. I understand if you don't want to listen to the next couple of shows, but I would because we can be all through. We're all in this together, and we can go through it together. And I'll be having some guests over the summer more. I know you're probably tired of just hearing me. Peace. I love you all. You're the most loyal fans in the world, and I wouldn't trade this experience for anything ever. But this season was really rough, and I'm so thankful it's over. Peace, and congratulations to Dallas. The age-old proverb always continues. Go Clippers.